Hi, everyone, and welcome to Between the Horns. It's a little bit spooky edition, and actually, we have a lot to celebrate today as there's also a new World Series champion in the city of LA. But of course, this Between the Horns is presented by our Southern California Toyota dealers, Camryn Irwin, alongside my good friends JV Long and Maurice Jones-Drew. Whew, we're coming off some big wins here in this city as well. But any special plans for Halloween? I know JV's not the biggest fan. Look at the side eye already.
You're not a Halloween guy.
You know this about me.
I thought you'd get into it for the kids, though.
No.
You've dressed up before.
Before? Not in a long time. I'm not here to dampen anyone's holiday. Just please get up early tomorrow morning and clean up all your decorations because it's November. It's Thanksgiving time.
Oh, that's what you're waiting for. I get it.
I thought he was talking about the parade that's probably taking place tomorrow. No?
Oh, that's true. Yes, that's true.
Yeah,
Enjoy that.
I'm a big Halloween guy. I won't be able to celebrate it this year because I'll be working, but like in spirit, I'll be dressed up in whatever the hottest thing is right now. I don't know what it is.
I mean, in fairness, I don't like scary movies. I don't like chocolate. It's just not tailored to me.
I'm not a chocolate guy either. Scary movies I'm a little wonky with, but I think some scary movies, I've actually gone back and watched some from like in the past, and they're funny because it's like come on, like that really scared people. But you know, neither here nor there.
This whole season, though, especially during the World Series, I'm trying to my kids want to watch baseball. I'm there with them, and then every commercial break, I'd be like, oh, close your eyes, look away. It's all the scary movies.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah.
My life was ruined by the movie Birds. Let's just put it that way. I watched that at far too young of an age, and it has completely shifted my personal space walking down the street I live on. There are crows that come at me, and I swear they dive bomb. It's a very dangerous street I live on. But we'll get rid of the scaries because there's anything but scariness happening right here in the Los Angeles Rams franchise. 2 wins in 5 days. We got to go all the way back to Thursday night. I think we should relive this one a little while longer,
question.
Guys. I have to ask, how do you quantify this win? Because it was massive. We saw the return of both Puka and Cooper, and Matthew Stafford was just simply lights out.
Yeah, I think JB kind of brought it to attention a couple Between the Horns ago about like these 2 games are the most important games because it determines the fate of your franchise. Do you go garage sale, right, if the season's kind of gotten away from you, or do you win these both and now you have a chance, you're fighting for something? To me, the offense, the team, everything just looks so different with Cooper, Kupp, and Puka Nacua out there. It was a completely different team, and it reminds me of your guys. Your guys are your guys for a reason, and when you're out there, you don't have those guys. Not even schematically. I'm just talking about players playing. Like Matthew Stafford getting out of that sack. He would have never did that if those 2 guys weren't out there because, again, it was just different. It was just a different type of energy that was out there. And so, to me, well, I can't say he would have never done it. He would have tried it, but I don't know if he'd have been successful. But to me, it was just like certain things like Sean lining up and going for it on 4th down and not motioning or shifting, right? That's something we haven't seen in I don't know how many years. And so it was just everyone was playing with a different type of energy. Everyone was playing with a different sense of urgency and a focus. And when you have the guys out there, and they're not even completely healthy yet, if they can get, obviously you get Steve Avila back or Jonah Jackson or Joe Nobum, you get those guys back. Now you're really playing with house money. And so to me, I just think when you quantify it, it's the health of your team really showed how explosive you could be.
Cameron, remember a couple of shows ago when we were talking about feeling the strain that some of the losses had put on this roster? Like you were having starters being asked to play starring roles and reserves being asked to play starting reps, and it just wasn't working. And then you have Darius Williams come back, I would say, on defense, but then Puka and Cooper come back, and it's like everything slotted back into place, and it felt right. It felt more like the design. I was having a pregame conversation with someone near and dear to the show about whether this person should put Puka Nacua into his fantasy football lineup, right? A lot of people were dealing with that on Thursday night. I was like, maybe, but you know who you should probably play as a surprise starter is DeMarcus Robinson tonight, because that guy is going back to where he was in December of last year. Why? Because he's meant to kill it on the backside of progressions. And when your eyes are here as a defense on Cooper 1, Puka 2, or vice versa, then you see Harrison Smith getting worked over by DeMarcus Robinson in a drop 8 situation in the red zone. Like, those things clearly could not and were not happening as recently as 2 weeks ago.
Well, and it really does feel like there was a trickling down effect, right? And I took a couple notes down and notables because immediately with, I called it Nacua or Puka Kupp, whatever you want to say, in the combination of the two. But the run blocking was immediately felt. Puka run blocking grade of 80. Demarcus Robinson, you mentioned what he was able to do. That was only 3 targets. He had 2 catches, obviously, that explosive touchdown, the longest touchdown for the Los Angeles Rams this season. And then you also think about what they were able to do with the offensive line, because it all starts with the offensive production. They were dropping guys back into coverage, and it completely changed the game. It was impressive. The Vikings, in terms of their blitz rate, down 10% from what they were doing this season. What did you see from the offensive line, especially against the Vikings? Because it really was a full trickle-down effect.
Well, one, when you're playing the Minnesota Vikings, if you can get run game going, all of a sudden they can't do these exotic blitzes and put guys on the ball and do all that. And the Rams were running at a great clip. I mean, they were getting 5, 6, 7 yards to start that game, which was like, oh, wow, okay, this is going to be an interesting game. But we always talk about it when Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua insert and on those safeties, or they crack a safety or whatever it may be, that takes football out of those guys. And then that safety now is looking at the running game, expecting, this receiver to crack him. Then all of a sudden the receiver runs a route and breaks out. And I thought what JB said best was the offensive line has played lights out. And you talked about Demarcus Robinson on the backside of those progressions. Well, how does he get there, right? You have to be able to attack that zero coverage blitz. You have to have answers for all those things. And then when you get those answers, they drop back in coverage, and now your line holds up. And I thought Bo Limmer's done a great job since he's been in, but then also the kid that went to the other school, I don't want to say the school's name. Dedich, yeah. I don't want to say the other school's name. But,
I was about to say.
He went to the other school.
College.
He's playing lights out, right?
You think so?
Oh, for a guy to come in undrafted he had 1 holding penalty, but I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. Like, you haven't given up a sack. You're doing a great job. There was some stuff in the running game where you saw him struggle a little bit, but that's to happen, right? Again, to come in as an undrafted free agent, to go out there and play like this, they're playing really well.
Let me ask you something. If you were Sean McVay right now and I injected you with true serum, okay? And I was like, how many plays did you run against the Vikings that were on your play sheet week 1 in Detroit? Remember how we talked about, like, at halftime in Detroit, he could have ceremonially lit that thing on fire because it didn't apply anymore. Mm-hmm. I think about Puka's first catch. He drops the first one. They go right back to him. And yes, the running game was effective, but the screen game is an extension of that running game, and it's been sorely lacking. But they motion Cooper in orbit to quads right and throw a 1-player screen out to Puka, and Alaric Jackson gets that block. It goes for 13, and boom, you're off and running again. That is simply not a play that you can run, even as recently as the Sunday prior against the Raiders. Yeah. There's just no reason to. You don't have the guys. It doesn't work. But Cooper draws those eyes, and you got your Clydesdale out there who can catch and run for 13. Like, that play to me, I'm guessing, was not a 3-day install. That was a play that they put in during the spring, during training camp, in the Detroit Lions game plan, and all of a sudden Sean's like, oh, I've got this laundry list of plays that I can run again because this is how we built it for 6 months.
Well, think about this, too. Puka Nacua allows your screen game to come open because he's bigger than every running back that you have. Mm-hmm. If you think about it, right? He's the biggest running back you have on your roster. So the screen game, from a receiver standpoint, you throw that quick screen out there. He's one-on-one with a safety. Harrison Smith doesn't want to tackle Puka Nacua. Then you run back with the play-action screen back to him where he has 2 or 3 guys in front. And you watch how guys are like trying to, like, I just don't want to get ran over, but I want to be in position to make the play if I have to. Again, I'm going to say a name. It's old David Boston. You remember David Boston from the Chargers? He's like a 240-pound receiver. Okay. Some people say 60. Receivers, DBs don't want to tackle that all the time. And when you have the ability to throw screens with guys in front with a bigger size receiver that's running on corners and safeties, that's going to wear down guys.
Yeah, there's just a swagger in all 3 phases that they played with against the Vikings that, to me, screamed the players want to take this season and in turn this era as far as they possibly can, which was refreshing. It was exhilarating to feel. And why not? Because when Stafford and Camryn and Kupp and Puka are all together, they legitimately have been the best offense in the National Football League. Now, you could argue that Detroit is gaining ground and taking over that title, and that's fine, but it's cool because the same pundits who left the Rams for dead at their bye are now saying you know what, they might be the most likely to challenge Detroit in the end coming out of the NFC. And the truth is probably somewhere in between, but it's going to be a lot of fun to find out.
The Rams are now 9-1 in all games played after the bye from a combination of both 2023 and 2024.
Here's to 10.
And it is insane. JB, we were discussing this a little bit off camera as well, but just the immense pressure going into this game in consideration to Cooper Kupp and the conversations that were swirling around him. I mean, this could really change and be an inflection point for this franchise in terms of the offensive production for the rest of the season. The conversation has shifted now, has it not?
I mean, you could probably answer that better having been in those locker rooms. If you're playing for each other, if you're playing for someone's future with your franchise, did you feel that the other night?
It's always tough. Like when you hear about one of your better players being on the trade block. See, this is completely different than what I used to like. Social media has put this thing out because you would hear rumors, but like literally, so all the social media going up to the Vikings game was, Stafford was going to go on the plane with the Vikings, and if they lose this, and Kupp is going to Pittsburgh, and so as a team, one, as a coach, you have to knock those down and say that's not true, or you have to say, you have to be honest with your players. But I felt, like I said, like the energy felt like, no, you're with us. Mm-hmm. Like, we're not letting you go anywhere else. We're going to come back here and we're going to make plays and we're going to find a way to win. I mean, just you can see the effort and the energy on special teams was insane. Some of those punts, right? Like all those different things were big time plays. And then again, the blocking by the receivers and Tutu Atwell coming in making a big time play, as we talked about before. Like, it's just guys are starting to get into their spots. And when you have that, you can open up your offense, and everyone was more excited about it. And I think, this team is closer than a lot of people believe outside of here. Because if you're selfish, Tutu Atwell is gonna be like, well, why am I not? I've been doing all this work. I need to get back in. Like he was like, oh, okay, this is my op, catch, right? Oh, this is my op. I blew by him. I'm wide open, right? Like,
but I think LaFleur and Sean and others did a great job platooning personnel in a way that they haven't for the last 7.5 years. And I'm sure some of that was to make sure there's tread on Puka and Cooper's tires. Mm-hmm. But I like the fact that they got in 12 and 13 sometimes. I like the fact that they used Tutu strategically and Tyler Johnson as well. Like, I think that plays moving forward. I think 10 and 17 are going to take more and more.
I don't think they need to, though, to be honest. I mean, I felt like they came out and what was it? It was Tyler Johnson and Tutu Atwell, or Tyler Johnson and Demarcus Robinson a ton in those 12 packages, and they were run. Mm-hmm. And then in the third and fourth quarter, all of a sudden, here comes a play-action pass off of it, right? So they set you up. They baited you to believe, hey, when these two receivers are in, we're doing these things. That's coaching, right? But it also gives your guys a break, too. I don't need you out there all the time. But that's because what we talked about over the last couple of weeks, those guys have earned the right to be out there to play in both the running game and the passing game.
Yeah, I think the way to beat the Vikings is either with your fastball. You got to be able to throw 100 past them, or so many changeups that they just couldn't really get a grasp on what you were trying to do. Like normally when you huddle and they can lock and load, like that can be a dangerous formula. But it felt like Minnesota was kind of playing on its heels, not just because of down and distance, but because of all those changes. But look, the Rams got a scheduling gift, right? They played 2 games in basically 3 weeks, right? I think it's 27 days. And it saved their season. It saved their roster. It saved their season, or at least the chance to save their season. I think the moment we have to embrace right now is this week is the last time that you're going to benefit from that. So you got to go cash it in. The extra rest, the extra preparation. You got to go 3 for 3, get a winning streak, maybe throw some dirt on Seattle, which we'll talk about, because the next 10 weeks are going to be a gauntlet, and you're not going to have that to fall back on.
Yeah, I like the next 10 weeks, though. I like kind of where they sit.
I'm just saying in terms of...
Oh, rest?
No rest.
But you know what the best thing about no rest is? It's 2 things. 1, you can get in a rhythm and get hot. And 2, you have the ability now to kind of start to employ, like, Blake Corum. Get him going. You can get some other guys going, which I think will help in the long run.
Yeah, there's trust in that depth. You're right.
I was going to say, and that depth was created at the beginning of this season. I want to go through at least one more. Let's revel a little bit longer. What would you say was the most impactful moment of this week's game against Minnesota? And JB, I think you may have mentioned yours already, but just something that in your eyes either was impactful or told the story.
It's the throw with the last drive, and I think it was like 3rd and 10 And it was like, man, do we run the ball, make them burn the timeout, or do you go for the throat? And Sean calling that play where it was like a fake screen to Puka and Cooper Kupp runs up the sidelines and they had all, and you throw it and you make a play, like that's the old Rams that we remember. They're not conservative, and that to me it reminded me of what we've been accustomed to for so long. So many times I remember it brought me back to this play, which is going to blow your mind, but Houston at the Coliseum backed up and they throw a post that goes like 98 yards or whatever it was. Golf to Woods. Like, there's no way you call that play down there, but you're so confident in what you're doing and what you believe. You're like, this is we're gonna win this game. This is what's gonna remind me of the Super Bowl win where he tells Matthew, like, this is your touchdown play to win the Super Bowl. Throw the ball to Kupp, right? Like, those are when you're playing like that and that confidence. That's tough to beat.
I would say, did I give you goosebumps?
It did.
Yeah. Sean mentioned this on Monday, and I think it really hit me how impactful it was. It happened so quickly it didn't dawn on me in real time, but when Justin Jefferson makes that incredible catch against like sticky Darius Williams coverage, and they want to go quickly and punch it in there in an angle situation, Darius rallies for a tackle for loss immediately on that next play, and it's a 4-point play. It's a 4-point tackle because instead of a touchdown off the back of that, they settle for a field goal. So that was one. And then if I'm being a little cheeky, I would say that the play that sticks with me is the referees clearly missed an obvious face mask. And if they throw that flag, the game ends differently. And of course, I'm talking about Kyren Williams having his face mask pulled with less than 2 minutes to go, because if that's a free first down, it's victory formation, it's game over. And
I've been fighting. I've been fighting that.
Shout out to the Twin Cities.
I've been fighting for that forever.
Right.
Listen, they missed 2 calls on that in that sequence. Ooh. We're not gonna go a little. The game is the game.
All right. Well, I have a really cool seat in the house, and as I'm sitting on the field, I actually get a chance to listen to you guys calling the game.
Oh,
and
sorry about that.
No, it's one of the greatest things. It's so enjoyable, and your call to the Cooper Kupp touchdown is one that will stick with me, and I loved it. The ever elusive Matthew Stafford, long live nine and dime. And I think it was probably one of the best calls, just considering what Cooper Kupp had kind of dealt with that whole week leading up to it. He had his family on the field, the return, he's playing alongside Puka, the echoes of Coop on the touchdown. Like, there was under the lights of SoFi Stadium in prime time.
Here comes Kupp in motion to balance it out 2-by-2. Stafford has the snap, 4-man rush, pressure in his face, goes out the left side, ducks the rush, flips to the end zone, caught! Cooper Kupp from Matthew Stafford! A primetime edition of Nine and Dime! Oh, the ever-elusive Matthew Stafford ducking the rush of the Vikings and finding his favorite targets. Welcome back, Cooper Kupp. Touchdown, LA.
That is a moment that I will not forget, and especially with your guys' voices in the background.
Well, look, if things go well this week and for the rest of the season, he's going to be the clear-cut third best receiver in Rams franchise history. Like, catches, touchdowns, it's going to be... This should be 2 Hall of Famers, Isaac, Torrey, hopefully sooner rather than later, and Cooper. And that feels appropriate to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's no doubt about it. All right, guys, we have to talk a little bit about rookie standouts. You mentioned a couple of them already in Bo Limmer, but let's dig in. Jared Verse, you had an incredible conversation with him this week.
What a character.
His mic'd up was phenomenal. It's gone viral. And to that point, my mother is the one that sent it to me. Moms ever, I'm just saying, this guy is hilarious. So fun. I think we need t-shirts that just read, "I'm in your head," or a hat. I'm not sure which, but how fun is that guy to watch?
Well, it's funny because, when you're watching the game and we're calling it, I'm like, they're double teaming him every play, and he's getting, like, knocked down, and then he gets up, he's barking. I can kind of figure out what he's saying. Like, you need 2 or 3 to block me. You need 2 or 3 to block me. And then to hear him say that on the mic'd up was like, oh, yeah, he just talks. But I remember OTAs, JB. We were sitting out there, and he was going at it, and he was going at it with one of the tight ends. And, like, Sean was like, hey, you got to calm down. And I was like, that's who he is. You got to let him play. Like, and it's shown that mindset and the trash talk is what gets him going more and more. And then when he got the sack to do the skull chant was even better, right? Like, he's a troll, and you love that about him.
Yeah. I think you can tell the story of the Rams' turnaround on the defensive side of the ball almost through Jared as a proxy for the entire defense. The whole first month, we were like, oh, he's getting pressures, but gosh, he's missing so many opportunities. I think it was 11 missed tackles in the Rams' first 4 games, many of which could have been like game-changing sacks. One missed tackle since for Jared Verse. The other thing is he is the only first-rounder playing on that entire defense. The Rams played 20 guys on defense against the Vikings. I broke it down this way. Jared is the only first-rounder. 6 others were day 2 selections, so either second or third. 5 were day 3 picks. 8 were college free agents. 8 undrafteds contributed to that win on defense. And there's only more coming for players like Omar Spates and Jalen McCullough and Josh Wallace because they're earning it.
Right.
Because they're earning it. And so early in the season, we're like, hey, you got to give this defense time. Like, the Rams are spending the least amount of resources of any team in the National Football League on that side of the ball. Well, now all of a sudden it's like, if they're going to be doing this, the ceiling for this 24 group gets higher and higher.
Well, it was funny. Like you said, I think everyone was kind of like, all right, we'll see what this defense can do. But they've been the ones that have been doing everything. I mean, if you look at Detroit, if you go back to Detroit, they just got tired in that overtime game, Like, they were just worn down. But they were getting after Detroit. I mean, they were the most physical team during that side of the ball. Like, they were way more physical than Detroit's defense, more physical than the Detroit's offense in those 4 quarters. And so that's what we saw in preseason, and it's carried over throughout. Like, they dominated a lot of teams that you wouldn't expect.
I love this matchup this week, too, because Charles Cross at left tackle, I think, is the best part of Seattle's offensive line, and that's normally where Jared aligns. So if Verse goes up against him, that'll be a great battle to watch. If they flip Jared and Byron, that'll be telling. And if not, then this feels like an Agent Zero, go get yours, and maybe some Kobe Turner, too, because the right side of the Seahawks offensive line is not as strong as middle to left. So,
and it's crazy to think Verse, Turner, Young, 8.5 sacks combined this season, 3 sack performance, though, against Minnesota this week.
Well, I think we should talk about that being the constant, like the pass rush, the Young pass rush, and what that means for this season and beyond.
Yeah, if you put it this way, you have 4 guys that can get after the quarterback, right? And I think Fish doesn't get enough credit for his penetration and getting Darnold off his spot, right? Like,
playing through a back injury, too.
Yeah, like he's up there. Darnold has to slide. When you slide, now you're a second late to throw the ball. You're allowing the coverage to kind of settle in a little bit more. And then you get the other guys coming out of everywhere, it seems like. It was like dudes coming all over the place. And to me, I thought Kobe Turner last year learned a ton, right? And I thought he played exceptionally well. But this year you're seeing he's the one taking on the double teams. He's the one doing all the dirty work, where last year it was Darnold that was getting all the, and he's still finding ways to get to the quarterback, which is allowing all these young guys to go out and make plays.
I also think we have every right to believe the best is yet to come. And here's why, is because until 2 weeks ago, the Rams' largest lead in the entire season was 6 points. These last 2 games, their last 2 wins, we've seen the Rams play with multi-score, double-digit leads, however you want to frame it. If this defense gets a chance to pin their ears back to play true Russian coverage, I think there's something going on there. And look, I hesitate to even say this because I have no interest in talking about 2025 yet, except in one regard. I think the biggest need or opportunity for this team going into next year is a top-tier corner.
Yeah.
Wrong? Like, imagine what a Jalen Ramsey would do to this pass rush over the next couple of years while they're still on rookie contracts, et cetera. And then I got to thinking, well, what if everything goes perfectly this weekend and you beat the brakes off the Seahawks and Chicago goes and knocks off Arizona?
And you move to number 1.
Do you want to finish that sentence for me?
Yeah, that's
Why
exactly
wait?
Right.
Oh, now you go get somebody.
Why wait?
You have until November 5th.
Who do you go get, though? Who's available?
Yeah,
and that's the question.
It takes 2 to tango. I get it,
Yeah.
but
I mean, this is the thing. I in the NFC, I don't really see you win against the best in the NFC already, in Justin Jefferson. That's the best receiver that you're going to see, right? And he made a couple plays, but he had to be the best to make those plays. I think you have what you need here. I don't think you need to go get a top-tier guy because that's not the way this defense is played. Like in the past, you had Jalen Ramsey because Aaron Donald was getting pressure and you wanted to shut one side of the field down and run zone coverage the other side.
You don't want to do that for the second half of this year and all of next year and all of 26?
I just don't think that's what the way this defense is built. That's just how I think they're built more of a team defense. Like everyone plays a role. We don't have one guy just covering Julio Jones the whole time like they did. When Wade Phillips, it was like, you got Julio Jones, we're playing man to man. That's not how they play. They're more of a schematic. The blitz they brought a couple weeks ago, they got Kobe Durant to hit that's a different type of thing that we've seen from the Rams.
So would you go out and get a different position if they pick it up and move from 4 to 1?
I would, but I know they wouldn't. I think off-ball linebacker is a position that you have to address eventually. I don't know where you address it. You address it now or later, but I think off-ball linebacker is a position that you have to address. I believe you still have the pieces because, again, John Johnson comes back, right? That's another addition to safety that helps you. I like I said, they have it's an advantage to have a no-name defense, if that makes sense. It's an advantage because they can't key on one guy. Guys are moving all over the place. And so I believe off-ball linebackers position they need to address either in the draft and not high, but somewhere to get those, to fix those pieces up a little bit. If that is that okay?
Omar's coming.
Omar's hey, listen. Get out the way because he was hidden. He made some big tackles in that game. And I love the Wire reference. I watched that again. Omar.
Well, let's dig into the NFC West a bit more because we've already laid it out just a little bit for you, but there is a chance this week that we could go from 4 to 1. Arizona loses to the Bears potentially in Week 9, and the winner of this between Los Angeles and Seattle will then move up into first place. We are the only division, the NFC West, that is decided right now by just one game, and obviously us coming off the bye, everyone else sitting at 4-4, us at 3-4. You mentioned it too. We've faced the NFC North at this point. The remaining schedule for the other teams in the NFC West is not as easy, JB.
Yeah, but I do think the 49ers are going to come back from this bye with a vengeance. Are you laughing at me or are you agreeing?
I'm agreeing.
Okay.
Because they are not happy right now. They have a lot going on over there.
Yeah. But they limped into that bye, and getting that win over Dallas and surviving that, I think, sets them up for second half. Although I will say, after this bye, their next 5 opponents between now and Thursday Night Football against the Rams are all against teams at or above 500. And they continue to have a rest disadvantage after this bye in terms of playing teams with extra rest. The Cardinals, though, despite what I may have said last week, are quickly becoming a problem. Kyler Murray is playing really well. Their schedule is actually favorable. And how about their 4 wins? 3 game-winning field goals and a blowout of the Rams. I would say this, if you don't have holiday plans, maybe consider grabbing a ticket to Week 17 at SoFi. Promo code TREAT, I think it is, at therams.com, because that is shaping up to be a pretty consequential game.
No, I agree. I think when you look at it, the Arizona Cardinals have shocked everyone. I mean, there's always a team that goes from worst to first. I think the Cardinals are kind of playing 13 personnel, mixing personnel versus what the Rams have done. They found something, right? And then Kyler, I mean, watching that Dolphins game, some of the passes he threw to Marvin, like over Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they're attacking guys, and they're kind of hitting their stride. To me, with the Rams is when you're playing the Seattle Seahawks, one, they have their own issues, right? The guys are fighting on the sideline. They got other stuff going on over there they got to figure out. And they're just coming off a shellacking. Like, Buffalo they're not playing any games. So if you're going up there, you have to go up there and understand that they're trying to get some confidence back and trying to get their swagger back. And they're going to throw a lot at you. But I just don't know if they have the pieces defensively to handle what the Rams are going to do.
Last weekend, a wise man quoted another wise man by saying, "You only get one shot.
That's
Do
right.
not miss your chance to." And that's kind of what I feel like this weekend is for the Rams. Because let's put ourselves in the Seahawks' shoes here, right? They've lost 4 out of 5. They've lost 3 in a row on their home field. They've got the open date next week. On the other side of the bye is a trip to San Francisco. In fact, 5 of their remaining 8 after this week are on the road. So that's why I feel like this is a separation Sunday opportunity to kind of thin out the herd in the NFC West. Because if you send a message this weekend, then maybe Seattle realizes, you know what, this isn't our year. Conversely, if you let them kind of do what San Francisco just did, which is limp into the bye with a win, and a winning record, then suddenly the Seahawks are probably going to be at SoFi Stadium in Week 18 with at least a real playoff scenario, if not like playing for bigger stakes. So,
to your point, this is a huge, huge matchup, and it actually makes me think as we dive into this one, the Week 1 win at Seattle last year. And I know, JV, you want to talk about this, but it's wild to think that was the season opener for the Los Angeles Rams. We were still figuring out who Puka was, who Camryn was, who Kobe was, and all of a sudden it's been a year and they are now household names. When you think back to that matchup, JV, what are your first thoughts?
I'm sure Maurice predicted it, but nobody else did.
Run the ball. That was a good one. They ran the ball 40 times that game, right? It was like unprecedented of what we were used to. And I think that's what you have to go up there and do. Whatever they think you're going to do, you have to do the opposite.
Yeah, it's kind of like the premise of our trailer this week is when they landed in Seattle last year, Kyren Williams had not scored an NFL touchdown. Since he scored more touchdowns than anyone else in the sport, and he's taken 5 weeks off. Puka Nacua went from an unknown to a household name. And this time they're bringing the next wave with them, right? They're bringing the fist. They're bringing the verse. How about the fact that Cooper Kupp has only played 18 snaps against the Seahawks in the 2 years since his Triple Crown season?
Yeah, that's
like that.
Crazy.
I knew that. I felt that. I lived that, but it hadn't really hit home that he's basically been sidelined for all 4 of the most recent Seahawks games.
Yeah, and then let's not forget Darius Williams pick 6 a couple years ago.
That was nice.
That he plays exceptionally well up there. I think the Rams. It goes back to I forget the year, but when the Rams went up there and blew out the Seahawks.
17, Todd Gurley.
Yeah,
they didn't officially clinch it. They had to wait till Tennessee, but that was when you knew that they had taken the torch.
And from that point forward, it's always kind of been like their second home, or not. I want to say that like their safe haven. Like they can go up there and get right, and they've always kind of gotten right against the Seahawks. So it was the Seahawks and the Cardinals that they've had some chances. Well, this is a chance for you to go up there and stay right. You have 2 games. You're hot. You're probably the most balanced offense that I've seen in the NFL, where like you're throwing the ball and running the ball at an efficient clip. If you look at the Baltimore Ravens, they score a lot of points, but they're not as efficient per play, if that makes sense. Like they'll get into 3rd and long, and then Lamar will make a crazy play, or they'll be in 2nd and 5 and Derrick Henry break off an 80-yard or play. But the Rams per play, they're able to be efficient. I think that's what they have to go up there and do.
We must all be mind melding together, because I know the next matchup that we want to talk about is a look back to Week 14.
Nice segue, Maurice.
That was perfect. The overtime loss.
You should think about a career in television.
Oh, man. To the Baltimore Ravens last year. We put up 31 points and over 400 yards of offense against Mike Macdonald-led defense, obviously now the head coach for the Seattle Seahawks. And by the way, that is also the only loss that the Rams have had in 2 years after the bye. So what do you think Sean McVay is going to be able to dial up against this defense?
That was the last game Kyren didn't score a touchdown, by the way.
That's also true.
All right. This is like red meat to MJD right here. We got to give him this opportunity. Put it on a tee for him. Remember they ran it 9 straight.
Don't do that to me.
I wasn't going to tell the rest of the story.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, they stalled out in the red zone. But remember, they ran it 9 straight times. They rushed for 128 on the day, more than all but one Ravens opponent last season. So Kyron's been unstoppable ever since. Seattle, Maurice, has allowed 7 rushing touchdowns since week 4. And if I remember correctly, part of that game plan was like Justin Madubuike fashions himself as the next Aaron Donald. And they got the linebackers and they got the pass rush. We're going to cool them off. We're going to keep Stafford out of harm's way. We're going to play into the conditions. Does this game not set up similarly? Or am I just drawing too much between, like Camryn said, Mike Macdonald got hired by Seattle?
No, I think it does, because you have guys like Byron Murphy, who they drafted, who's very similar to Aaron Donald, who a lot of people, even our DeMarco Farr, said like he's the closest thing to it. When you go back to that Baltimore Ravens game, they ran right at Madubuike, right at him, because, again, that's how you cool off a guy that's rushing the passer at a high level. You run at him. Now, to me, if you're the Rams, you go in, you're saying, look, we have to go right at this defense again. And like everything, it kind of allows our offense to be the best. When we can run the ball at it doesn't have to be big gains, but 4 yards. If you get 4 yards, you get 4 yards. You keep getting 4, then all of a sudden you have a play action pass or you have a quick pass out to the flat. It just puts so much stress on the defense, but you have to attack them, the middle of their defense, because that's where they pride themselves on.
And Cooper ate that night, and so did Puka and Davis Allen. Like, there were other stars in that game, but just in terms of the structure, the premise. And it's not just Byron Murphy, who, by the way, like, because he's a rookie, because he was taking a few picks ahead of us, like, he bears mentioning here. And I think this is a big game for the inexperienced guys up the middle that you mentioned earlier, Limmer and Dedich. Like, I could give you Dedich's PFF grade, or we could talk about the fact that he hasn't allowed pressures, but like the real indication of how the Rams will feel about Dedich is Joe Noteboom is out there practicing fully this week. If you're saying we're going to go with the 24-year-old undrafted against this front, because the interior is a strength.
Yeah.
And look out for Ernest Jones, too, because we know he likes to play on both sides of scrimmage.
Oh, my God, I forgot. It's a revenge game. And we haven't.
Revenge game.
They found a way back. Look, Sean knows Ernest Jones. Sean understands how to attack there's personnel pieces, right? How to attack Woolen, how to attack their other corner from Illinois. His name slipped my mind, but
Spoon,
yeah, Witherspoon. How to attack those guys. But the most important thing is going to be that front, like we talked about. Are you comfortable with the guys that are there now, or do you have to add pieces there? And like I said, the healthier the Rams get to that offensive line that you had projected on your depth chart early in the season, I wouldn't be concerned. But this team here up front, they have some guys. Seattle Seahawks have some guys that can get to the quarterback in the middle of the defense.
Jaron Reed, Leonard Williams, a couple other names that I wrote down.
It's going to be interesting from that side of the ball. But I'm also curious, too, because there's a big question mark that could really change the complexion of this matchup. And the guy's name is DK Metcalf. He was out last week. We saw what happened with their not just explosive plays, but also their run game faltered significantly against the Bills. Yeah. There's potential he's coming back in this matchup.
Oh, he's going to play.
He's going to play. How is that going to change the game? And so what's the point of reference? Is it against the Falcons, or their matchup against the Falcons, or is it so much against the Bills?
No, I think this is where Jalen Ramsey was like most important, because he canceled him out, right? Like, this is where you have that top tier corner to cancel a guy like that out. And it is a little nerve wracking to have DK out there, because again, what he did against Atlanta, what he's done this whole season, he's kind of been their guy. But the pressure is what's going to change everything, right? Like, if Geno Smith can sit back in the pocket and just throw the ball and it's 7-on-7, he'll tear you up. But what the Bills were able to do, they got pressure from everywhere. And he couldn't sit in the pocket, and he couldn't do all the things that he wanted to do and have all the time to throw, regardless if DK was out there or not. So to me, it's going to be on that front that we talked about early in the show, is can you get pressure on Geno to get him to get off his first read quickly? Can you throw some different coverages at him so that he has to pump fake to let those guys get to? It's going to be more of a chess match this game than it's ever been, just because they're going to run this high-flying offense with these 3 receivers, and then you got Kenneth Walker, who can catch the ball in the backfield, who's having a heck of a year right now. I think it relies on that D-line. If that D-line can get to Geno, I think you're fine.
It's still disputed whether Geno was the one who said OMG with Aaron Donald coming at him.
He said it.
But we know Aaron's not going to be there, and yet you're saying there's still the pieces to make Geno Smith feel OMG, if not say it.
Yeah, no, he's going to feel it. I think. I mean, that was just a unique play. It was a great stunt that hit. But I think, again, you just want him to slide and move in the pocket as much as you can. He's not one of those guys that, like, Kyler can slide in the pocket and still have his eyes downfield and throw the ball. Geno, when he slides, his eyes come down. And so if you can get him to move, he's going to look to run, which is going to take, obviously, off the big plays down the field.
I just love the schedule progression. Like, the Raiders win was probably the best get-right opportunity you'll see all season. They had just traded away their best receiver, one of the best receivers. Then you went toe-to-toe with the best receiver in Jefferson last week, and now you get a portfolio, a collection of receivers that I think, when they're right, are as good as any in the league. Like, Geno's leading this league in passing, in part because he has to, in part because he has JSN and Tyler Lockett and DK.
I was just about to ask the question, too, because when you look at the numbers for the last, we'll say 4 games, even for Walker, they've actually been relatively diminished significantly diminished. So
Yeah,
my
because
question,
Buffalo had 14 guys in the box.
exactly. That was my next question. So do
like,
the numbers really tell the story?
well,
Not just for Walker, but even for this offense, for Seattle. Where is the cause for concern?
Well, again, I think when you look at Kenneth Walker and what he's been able to do, they don't utilize him as much as I thought they would. Like against Atlanta, they kind of let him go and he did his thing. But when they play, if you stop their run game early, they'll abandon it quickly. They will, hey, we got to throw the ball. And so to me, Buffalo was like, we're going to force you to throw the ball and we're going to force you to throw into tight coverage, and you don't have your big receiver here to make those plays. So for us, I think if I look at that from a Rams standpoint, yes, stopping the run is always first, and you got to make sure you do that. But the next best thing is you got to win your one-on-one. Somebody's going to get double teamed, and whoever's one-on-one, you got to win. Like, you got to find a way to win and get there. If that's Michael Hoyt, if that is Jonah Williams, whoever's in there that they're going to one-on-one, you have to win.
All right, well, that's a perfect jumping off point. Should we jump into our keys to victory here? So is stopping the run your key to victory, or what would?
That's never that. That's
He's
never
like, nuh-uh.
Yeah, 40. We got to get to the number 40. 40 plus runs. If you can get to 40 plus runs like you did last year in week 1, that means you have control of the game. That means you are. And let's remember, Puka had 100 plus. He had 14 catches. You're still throwing the ball.
Tutu as well.
Yeah, you just want to get to that. You want to get to those high numbers, 35 to 40 in runs. If you can get to that, that means this game is in the way you want to play it.
Real quick too, because the untold story of that win and the second half shutout is both of their tackles were lost to injury in that game. So that changed the protection plan and capability, and that's still an open-ended question for me going into this game with Seattle. Is they've been trading off at right guard. It seems like they've come to a solution, but I don't know if it's a final one. And then they're down there starting right tackle. They've been playing a rookie in that place. Whether that holds this week or whether they get somebody back, it's tough to know how the Seahawks are going to play this one, and in turn how the Rams are going to have to win it without knowing what that looks like. So still days to go, but the good news is right now the Rams injury report looks much better than Seattle's.
That is very true. And to your point, too, about stopping the run, running the ball, the Seahawks are allowing the most yards per play right now at 6.5 in the NFL since week 4. So that might be where I'm looking.
Is that your key?
Yeah, it's my key.
I like it better when she leads off. She always waits. She's sitting there waiting.
I like to have that
clean up
final
behind
last
it
little
instead of
push, you know?
leading the charge.
What's your key to victory? What do you got, JB?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm going to crowdsource mine, per usual. I got a few. So the Rams checked a big box last week, which was they scored a first quarter touchdown for the first time all season. Here's my challenge this week. Opening drive, third quarter. Touchdown, please. Opening drive, third quarter has been a problem. 3 points all season on the first possession coming out of halftime. 2 turnovers, 4 punts. 3 of those were 3 and outs. So when I say last week, defer for what?
Right.
Kind of what I'm talking about. Turnover-free game. It's only happened once. Mm-hmm. The Rams have gotten away with it in their last couple, but this feels like you'd be very well served to protect all of your possessions. Make sure they all end in a kick. Isn't that what you say?
That's always, yeah.
But here's what I settled on, because this one is better for conversation. Like, those two are obvious. How about the key to the game being Camryn against Ernest? I've already heard this week, like, Matthew against Ernest, which is a good one. But the way the Rams play, the way they run it, isn't it kind of like Camryn against Ernest? And then also, Jones is going to blitz. He's going to come.
I was going to say that. That's where he's the most dangerous.
And so Camryn sticking his face in the fan and making sure that Matthew's pocket is clean feels like a good way to decide this game.
I wonder who used to win those one-on-ones when they do one-on-one blitz pickup. I'll have to talk to Coach Gould about that to see who wins so we can have it on the, because if I'm Seattle, I'm like, yo, we're going to, anytime we think it's a pass situation, you're blitzing the back, because that's who won the Super Bowl, to be honest. Remember how many crucial sacks he had late in that game, rushing on Joe Mixon, was able to go. Then Joe Mixon's not in the game because he can't pick up the blitz. They put Samaje Perine, who falls and gets into 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1 and doesn't get the first down, and then you get the sack. So Ernest Jones, his blitzing is going to be a problem, and that's going to be, again, that's why I say 40-plus runs so we can get all that blitzing out. Like, we don't need you blitzing. We need to have control of this game.
And look, I think only 4 pressures on Matthew, no sacks against the Vikings. Like, that was the stat of the game on Thursday. Mm-hmm. And the offensive line deserves a lot of credit. The tackles in particular are having nice seasons, but it's not just them. It's Matthew protecting himself, the communication being better, fewer silent count opportunities. And then how about the backs and the tight ends doing their
Right.
part? Like that's really what I felt.
All right, he crowdsourced for his. What's your key to victory?
Oh, I told you it was simple. It's just 40 plus.
40 plus. Got
40
you.
plus. If you can run the ball, it eliminates a lot of issues with the blitzing, the different. Again, Seattle's going to try to blitz. If they can't get pressure right away, part of trading for Ernest Jones was the fact that he's more physical than Jerome Baker, who they traded away. He can come downhill. They wanted to be more of a physical defense. If you can eliminate that helps with a lot of stuff going on. I just don't want to see Ernest Jones like getting the sack, because that's going to be crazy.
We'll feel that. But I'll give you one more too. Just in terms of Geno Smith, he has been sacked 21 times. I think we can get some more pressure on him. Obviously, Rams are tied for third highest pressure rate in the NFL this season.
I think the rate there is important because yes, he has been hit and sacked, but on a per drop back basis, Seattle's actually done okay to protect him. Like his sack raw number is there, but his sack rate compared to some of the other major passers in this league, not so bad. And I don't know. This is the game to go do it for sure.
I also want to think back one more time to what Jared Verse said to you, because when you mentioned some of those maybe missed tackles or missed opportunities, like he owned that conversation and said absolutely, and he immediately kind of changed his tune in terms of like it was something that he was not just locked in on but ready to perform, and he's completely changed that storyline. I love it. I thought it was great.
I will say the one thing I loved, he was like, my pass rush move is very simple. I'm going to run through you. That's it. I'm going to go through you and get to the quarterback. And it's funny because if you look at Florida State now, their guys go around guys. And again, it's a different mindset. It's a different mentality. We talked about if you're going to beat the Niners, how do you beat them, right? You got to be more physical. You got to be more rough. The Rams have changed the way they've played football in the last couple of years, both by size but also mindset of players. Like, Jared Verse being physical and running through guys every play. I'm going to come back. I'm going to do it again. And you just keep doing that. That is like, I've been in there with linemen that have been like, yo, help me.
Yep.
This is not what I want. And so that mindset, you can see kind of how that's going through the team a little bit.
It allows him to play every down too, because he plays run down and he takes pride in run down. And that's also an inside storyline on this game is the Seahawks have struggled lately because their early down efficiency on both sides of the football has been bad. Their opponents have had short yardage third downs, and they've had third and a mile to go. That's something to keep an eye on, like average third down distance on Sunday.
And I'll fess up a little bit too. I just wanted to find a way to bring up Jared Verse because I also think your best Halloween costume for this evening, little tomato juice, little V8 action.
Oh, nice.
Come on.
Check out that Spider-Verse graphic that Ram Social put out this morning. That was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Might have to adopt a new nickname there for Jared.
Rip them pics. I like that. The gravestone. Well, the guys, this has been a fun episode. We've definitely gone over time limit. I wasn't even looking at the clock because I'm too scared to, but it was deservedly so. This Week 9 matchup is going to be a good one between the Los Angeles Rams and, of course, the Seattle Seahawks on the road. Thanks so much for joining us on this edition of Between the Horns, presented by your Southern California Toyota dealers, Camryn Irwin, JV Long, and Maurice Jones-Drew.
Happy trick-or-treating.